Welcome to Future Consideration, SB Nation's NFL Draft Show. Here's how it works. Dan watches a lot of college football.
And Matt covers the NFL all year long.
Together we mesh our knowledge to try to make sense of this coming NFL draft.
Yes. Let's start out with this week's mock draft, courtesy of the fine folks at Mocking the Draft. It's a doozy. The top 5, not a ton has changed, but let's review it. Number 1, Blake Bortles, Central Florida quarterback to Houston. We don't mind it. It can be argued that he is a more valuable quarterback.
Each of the teams in the top 5 has a need at quarterback.
Yes.
There's 3 notably great quarterbacks, or what we think will be great quarterbacks.
Very top-heavy.
So, sure, why not?
Clowney to St. Louis at number 2. A team rich with defensive ends. It's a value pick. Your thoughts?
You're not going to regret drafting JADEVEON Clowney.
I don't think so.
And Robert Quinn and JADEVEON Clowney both rushing off an edge terrifies me.
Who says we have too many good defensive linemen?
Nobody.
Nobody says that. All right, number 3, Jacksonville and Bridgewater.
Sure.
Great pick.
Yep.
I think he's the most polished, most prepared NFL quarterback.
When was the last time the Jaguars had a real good quarterback?
Brunell? It's been a little bit. Number 4, Sammy Watkins to Cleveland, giving them all of the receivers with maybe Brian Hoyer.
Who's throwing to these fantastic wide receivers?
I feel like we could try out. Maybe we could stand a chance. Number 5, Manziel to the Raiders, just for sheer comedy and like the ceiling of just how awesome it could be.
What player's personality better matches the Oakland Raiders?
No, it's Manziel, and if he succeeds there, God help everybody in the East Bay. I love it.
Let's jump around.
Yeah.
How about number 7, Tampa taking Mike Evans?
Not a huge fan of that. Huge fan of Evans, but they have needs that are greater than the receiver position. I'd like to see them go offensive line. There's still injury concerns along the line. Everybody's still on the board here. Greg Robinson, Jake Matthews, they can grab somebody there, put him at right tackle, and that's a great place.
I like the idea of giving Mike Glennon some more weapons if he's your quarterback of the future. Then, but I think that when you're still kind of a building up team, go ahead and invest in that offensive line. You don't ever regret that.
Absolutely. All right, number 13, the Rams and Calvin Pryor, a safety you like a lot, especially with the Rams.
It's, again, I'm not like a film expert, but every time I watch him on film, he comes flying into the picture like a Polamalu or an Earl Thomas.
Yep.
And maybe he doesn't have the play recognition of those safeties yet. But
like an aggressive Cardinal.
As a Rams fan, I would be very excited about this pick.
Absolutely correct. I'm just judging.
Sure,
I don't know.
Why not?
Number 18, excuse me, the Jets and Eric Ebron, the tight end from North Carolina.
If you're spending a first-round draft pick on a tight end, he's going to have to be a Vernon Davis.
High level.
You want him to be a game changer. The Jets took Dustin Keller in 2008 with a 30th pick.
Yeah.
That got booed, and he was a good tight end.
He was fine.
Yeah.
Not a game changer.
Not a game changer.
I think Ebron could be, though. That's why I like this
6'4",
pick.
250. He's fast, and, Geno Smith is going to need some help. How about at 22, Eagles taking Marquise Lee?
I like this pick a lot. The Eagles already a playoff team. Uncertainty at receiver with free agency. Maclin coming back from his injury. Riley Cooper, a free agent.
Coming off of something else.
Yes, coming off of something else. Marquise Lee, Biletnikoff Award winner. Versatile. Can help out Deshaun Jackson in the return game. Take some of the pressure off of there. Marquise Lee also stiff Chip Kelly during the recruiting process.
Yeah, I think the Eagles might have bigger needs than wide receiver, but I do like Chip Kelly getting fun offensive toys.
And if Nick Foles is the Nick Foles of 2013, that's not a bad position to be, to add those weapons.
Indeed not.
Okay, and finally, Vince Wilfork, injured. Lewis Nix to the Patriots at 29.
Makes a ton of sense. Wilfork, even though he's been the best player at his position for the last kind of decade, is 32, going to be 33 in the middle of next season, and it's tough to come back from an Achilles. Not going to be the same player when he comes back. Might as well have the next anchor of your defense ready to step in for him.
And we can call him Irish Chocolate, which I like saying.
Me too. All right, those are the highlights of this week's mock draft. Thanks as always to our friends at Mocking the Draft.
So great.
Let us know what you agree and disagree with. Next up, top 5 quarterbacks in the draft. This is the sexy position. This is what people want to talk about. Who's number 1 for you?
Teddy Bridgewater, for me, is the most prepared, the smartest, the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, his only weakness is not good at sliding.
Yeah,
I think that's something that he can work on.
He's actually not super athletic either. So he can extend plays, but when something breaks down, he's not somebody that's going to take off. And that's, in this NFL, that's something. But in terms of his accuracy, in terms of his arm, in terms of his ability to read defenses, primo.
What about number 2?
Number 2, I have Johnny Manziel.
I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, his ceiling, I feel like, is probably the highest. It's so dependent on where he lands.
Yeah.
But his ability to change a game. We saw Russell Wilson at a very similar size win the Super Bowl. Manziel does have some weaknesses in throwing off his back foot, sort of trying to run his own offense way too much. But he's got big hands, always important as an NFL quarterback. Big hands. I think Manziel right there is just too tantalizing to drop any further than second best.
I think I agree with you. And number 3, Blake Bortles.
Yes, his whole thing is he's got the size size. He's got the stockiness and athleticism at that size.
He moves really well for a big guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't make the greatest throws at all times, has a kind of a bit of a wind-up at times, but I really like Bortles as a bedrock guy that can sort of adapt to different offenses.
And the best name to say.
Bortles.
Bortles.
At number 4, Derek Carr, by far the best arm in this draft.
You think so?
He by far, he has the best just in terms of the cannon that he has attached to his right shoulder. I think that's the highest point. He's actually more athletic than he appears. He can sort of scramble and throw on the run. Not great under pressure, not great at sort of picking up blitzes and different sort of disguised defenses.
I'm a little bit concerned that despite that big arm of his, he threw so many short passes and screens at Fresno State.
Yeah, it inflates his completion percentage, but I think with his arm, in the right system, with the right quarterback coach, because he releases it so quickly, I think he'll be great throwing the ball downfield.
Okay, number 5. This is where things start to get a little bit muddy. Who's the 5th best quarterback in the draft?
It gets muddy around here. I think MCCARRON is the guy for me just because he played so well in so many big games against so many really, really good defenses in the SEC. Has a good arm, not a great arm, has a lot to prove at the combine, makes a ton of really good throws, especially outside the numbers. Not crazy about his ability to recognize defenses, pick up blitzes, sort of getting antsy in the pocket, but really like MCCARRON if he's able to develop.
I agree, he's definitely better than he gets credit for being.
More than a game manager.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are Dan Rubenstein's top 5 quarterbacks in this year's NFL draft. Let us know if you agree or disagree.
Okay, let's talk AFC West and the draft needs they have before free agency, but still the needs nonetheless.
Yeah, let's kick things off with the Denver Broncos, AFC champions, 18 unrestricted free agents, only $12 million in cap space. They're going to have to solve some problems in the draft.
Yeah, now, by the way. They have an ancient quarterback who can win.
They're in win-now mode, an ancient quarterback who's also very expensive.
Yes.
I think the biggest team needs offensive line that got exposed in the Super Bowl. Granted, Ryan Clady injured out for the season. He'll be back. But at right tackle, Orlando Franklin, they're probably going to need to replace him. And they had some troubles with the interior line, as we saw in the Super Bowl as well.
Absolutely, and they're drafting at a point where they're not going to get the top of the top, but that's depth-wise, they need to build that quickly.
And that's the sort of thing you have to protect Peyton Manning if you want that team to win.
Yep.
On the other side of the ball, they have some serious problems in the secondary. The Seahawks receivers expose them. And of course, it's maybe overvaluing the Super Bowl for a very good team, but that was a clear weakness on the defense.
They're playing to get back to that point.
Exactly. And with Champ Bailey, 36 years old and expensive.
Speaking of ancients,
they're going to have to pay Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. Mike Adams is 33. He could be on the way out. Again, those are the 2 biggest holes for them.
Needs now.
Yep.
All right, next, the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the surprise teams 2013, but still plenty of holes to fill.
Absolutely. They're going to lose Brandon Albert, their left tackle. Jeff Schwartz, their excellent guard, gives them a lot of stability. Also a free agent. They'll probably try to keep him. I think that probably the offensive line is going to need some shoring up. They're going to move Eric Fisher probably over to left tackle, but still they need some depth on that offensive line. And at safety, they're probably going to lose Kendrick Lewis, and they've got 2 other safeties back behind him that are also free agents.
Yes, and even though the AFC West isn't the biggest throwing, it's still Denver, it's still San Diego, and Oakland.
And of course, we're ignoring what might be the Chiefs' most glaring need as wide receiver. When your leading rusher is also the person who has the most receptions and yardage receiving, that's a problem.
Deep draft for receivers as well.
Absolutely.
So that's a nice place to be. Oakland.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Basically everywhere except maybe the secondary. They've got Tyvon Branch and DJ Hayden's going to be back after being injured his rookie year. So they've got some promise in the secondary, but everywhere else is a mess.
Yeah, and that's offensive line, that's defensive line, and we mentioned Manziel at quarterback.
Would love for them to get a quarterback in the top 5.
Yeah, that seems to be the move. And finally, San Diego, an improved San Diego team in 2013.
Yeah, I would say, here's a quick test for you, Dan. Name a San Diego cornerback.
Can I have, I just need Wikipedia. That's all I basically need.
That's a problem for them. They gave up a lot of yards through the air.
Or name a good San Diego corner,
and of course, Richard Marshall is maybe their best quarterback. He's on the way out, most likely. That's probably the biggest thing for me. And then offensive line, when you've got a quarterback like Phillip Rivers doesn't move very well, they could stand to protect him a little bit better.
He moves well to me, just in terms of comedic reasoning, but yes.
he moves hilariously, not so well in the inside
and
pocket.
Receiver, not a terrible thing to draft there too, if you can get somebody 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, they've got Denario Alexander, who of course tore his ACL for the 17th time.
Keenan Allen's a star.
He's a free agent. Keenan Allen, if you had a secondary option behind him. Yeah. And Antonio Gates, they've got the next tight end.
Speaking of ancient again.
They've got their tight end of the future in green, so probably not tight end, but maybe another wide receiver.
It wouldn't hurt.
In a deep draft like that.
2014. Super duper entertaining year for the AFC West.
Yeah, 3 squads that made the playoffs, plus an Oakland Raiders team that's going to have $60 million plus in cap space.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Danger.
Indeed. Those are your AFC West team needs for 2014 before the draft. This has been Future Consideration. He's Dan, and he watches college football.
That's Matt. He's an NFL guy all year long.
Yes, sir. We'll see you next week.